the Lions get a scrappy win against the Tahs. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Certainly not a classic by any stretch of the imagination, this one, but I guess the Lions would be saying, a win is a win, and they've obviously got a lot of stuff to work on the back of this, but yeah, we'll have to see how they go. They've got, 2 more warm-up games, I think, is it? Or, well, they've got at least the Brumbies in the week, and then Invitational New Zealand and Australia side next Saturday, and then the first test after that. So yeah, not too much time to get things done, but as Andy Farrell was saying after the game, it is possible at least to as he said, a lot of learnings from them, so hopefully they take those lessons rather than learnings, or I prefer to use the proper word. But yeah, hopefully take the lessons from this game. But let's talk about the game. Then we'll talk about, as before, stats, and then how, I felt briefly how each of the players went. So starting off, Lions looking to move the ball early, but, it's going to deck, and it goes to deck on one occasion. The Tahs actually pounce a loose ball. Wilson then breaks. He finds Lancaster, who carries into the 22, and then looking for to return the pass back to Wilson, but Hansen tackles him, and then I think it was Cummings got back to intercept the ball, and then the Lions are able to kick clear, but a bit of a warning sign there for them in terms of the defence. Lions then win a penalty at the first scrum. Schumann and Beelum getting the plaudits there. And that was, set piece, I think in this game certainly would be a big positive for the Lions. Then they work a bit of space out wide left, but Earl can't hold Hansen's pass. I think he fired it on him a little bit, and maybe Earl was overrunning it too. So, again, a little bit off with their accuracy in a lot of things in this game, and, definitely going to have to try and fix that. Lions then win another scrum penalty, go up the line into the 22. They go to the maul. It kind of crabs in field before they move the ball to Piloto then, gives an no-look pass to Jones, who comes, on a great short line, slices through the defence and over to score, converted for 7 points to 0, and just really well worked between the two of them. Just you could see the understanding is there. The Tahs then with an attacking chance from a line out on the edge of the 22, but they go over the top, and the Lions snaffle it up. They move it, and Earl, a great carry to get them on the front foot. Another scrum penalty for the Lions, and a kick to the corner. They go to their maul, and the Tahs are pinged for changing their bind, so back into the corner from them. They then move it this time, but aggressive defence from the Tahs forces, first of all, a handing error from Ryan, and then immediately followed by a knock-on from Cowan-Dickey. From here, then, Houston Clare gets over the ball to win a penalty for the Tahs, and they kick up the line to within about 50 metres of that try line. The Lions then ping for playing the 9, and the Tahs go to the corner again. They're pounding away at the line, but the Lions are offside, and they go for a tap penalty. Ben Earl offside this time. Lions finally get a warning. I thought they and a final warning as well. The next player is going to the bin, but I thought the warning could have come, a bit earlier, given how many penalties they give away. We then have a TMO check for a possible, try, and basically the Tahs went into the opposite corner from the latest penalty, went to the maul. It spins, and then Gamble explodes out of the maul and has the power to get over through the tackle of Mac Hansen. But then TMO comes in and we see that there's obstruction as they set up the mall. Any Ireland fan, whether it's the national team or the provinces, will know this penalty, because like our teams seem to give away more than anybody else. It's basically where your jumper goes up and then the lifters come in behind them, blocking access for the opposition as you set up the mall, and that's exactly what happened in this one. I think it was Lee Warner was the one that was picked out, so it's no try. Then he gets pinged not too long afterwards for being offside down the other end, and the Lions kick into the 22. They work it up to the line. The ball passed to Jones, and he's kind of like almost standing still, but he kind of puts on a bit of footwork and draws his defender in towards him, and is able to just step him into the space and go over. So really good from him, and then showed good strength as well to get over, converted for 14 points to 0. The Tahs then, they hit back after strong carries, out near the tram lines. Tupou draws the cover, pops a pass to Lancaster, and he rides the tackle of Keenan to get over in the corner. Thought it could have been, a better effort from Keenan, honestly, there as the last man. We have a TMO check for a possible foul play in clear out on Mac Hansen, and it looks like, honestly, it looks like it is kind of shoulder, forearm to head on the clear out, but referee says it's all good, try stands, so I'm not going to argue too much about it. Conversion missed, 14 points to 5. Lions then have another chance before the break. They work it up to 5 meters out or so, but then a loose pass from Hansen and they lose momentum. Tahs able to turn it over and kick it off for half time, 14-5 at the break. Into the second half, Lions offside, and the Tahs kick to the corner. They go to the maul. It's edging forward. Then backs come and pile in. They roll it to the left and over they go. And Dobbins is the scorer. Conversion is missed, 14 points to 10. But the Tahs really, in the game now. Great start to the half from them. Lions then, they start to come forward. They're, looking to get to the edge when, Mitchell just spots an opportunity, because the Tahs are kind of have drifted out there because the Lions have been doing it a lot. They've been going wide a lot, so he just sniped straight up the middle, bursts into the 22, finds Kinghorn, who's kind of slipping as he receives the ball, but he does well to get it onto Van der Fleer, who goes for the corner. But then there's a great covering tackle from Lambert, and Van der Fleer loses the ball forward on the line as he's trying to ground it. The Lions then, coming back again, they move the ball wide right to Hansen in the 22, and then I don't know why, I know they had a penalty advantage, but I don't know why he decides to kick the ball through. I thought you just keep it in hand. If you don't think you're going to get to the try line, just be kind of strong in the tackle and have a recycle and maybe get over. But kicking it through, ball just goes dead. And it feels like, not just on this occasion, but a lot, Lions are really just trying to force things a little too much. Then bring on a number of players from the bench at this stage, and we do definitely see impact from the bench. And Waratahs then, they win a free at a scrum, and I don't know who was it that was, I can't remember. I think I'm not sure who it was that had the ball in the hand, but basically they took a step forward, which means now they've got to kick the ball. But as soon as they advance, Cummings comes flying up, and through that pressure, they actually give a pass instead, and means we come back for a scrum for the Lions. So really well done by Cummings there. Then Lions win a penalty at the scrum. They kick to the corner. They go to the maul, not really going anywhere. So then Mitchell goes off the back, sells a dummy, and goes over to score. Converted for 21 points to 10. Lions then work it within about 5 meters. Then they move it to Genge, who he gets to the line, but Timo check shows, he's knocked it on as he was going for the line. Goal line dropout there. Then we have nice long pass wide to Hansen, breaks into the 22, but then Callaway gets over the ball to win a penalty. Very good defense there from him. And the Tahs, I thought, were very competitive at the breakdown as well. They then have a central scrum just inside the Lions 22, but the Lions win a penalty at the scrum and they're able to clear. And, that was one of the saving graces for the Lions, really was their kind of set piece dominance. Another scrum penalty for them, and they're kicking to the corner. They move the ball a few meters out, but then Gamble gets over the ball to win a penalty. And, he was really good at the breakdown today. I felt, not just on this occasion, like throughout the game, he won a number of turnovers for his team and just made it so messy for the Lions as well. Then scrum penalty again to the Lions, go to the corner, go to the maul, and they decide then, they're going forward, backs come in and they drive over. We have a TMO check, on field is try, but then as the TMO goes back to the setup of the maul in the first place, and you see Earl getting pinged for exactly the same thing that Lee Warner did in the first half. Jumper going in behind the receiver, before the maul is actually set up, clear obstruction, and gets chopped off. And again, no arguments with that. Lions then, they win yet another scrum penalty to the corner, or at least they want to go to the corner. Marcus Smith, though, his kick goes horribly wrong. Like, it goes dead, but it doesn't go dead along the sideline. It goes dead, like, right on the end line. He was that far off. So he was, his angle's just completely wrong on that. And, again, it's just one of those things where you can see a lot of players who were playing in this game were just trying to force that little bit too much, I think. Then Lions attacking into 22, but Byrne spills the ball in contact. I think he did it a couple of times on carries as well. Then the clock is in the red. The Lions have another, attack from a free kick into 22, and they're going wide to Van der Merwe, but then, again, kind of sign of the inaccuracy. The ball just kind of pings out of the ruck and hits one of them and goes out, and that's full time. 21 points to 10, a win, but certainly not brilliant from the Lions. And I think the Tahs can take, a bit of the, certainly, a lot of the credit for that, actually, with the way they played, but certainly the Lions, again, a lot to work on from them. So let's have a look at the stats, and then we'll talk about the, players kind of individually as well, but not in huge detail, because even when I do this in short detail, I notice it's going to be about 40 minutes for this, so I don't want to go like crazy. So match stats first. Three tries to 2 in favor of the Lions, so scoreline much closer, and the try count closer as well in this one. The Lions, 8 each in the last 2, I think, and 50 odd points. So you have to say fair play to the Tahs for not just keeping the score down, because that sounds a bit too disrespectful from my point of view. More that they stayed competitive for a long time. Yes, towards the end of the game, it felt like the Lions were trying to get a few more scores to blow out the scoreline, but for much of the game, like the Tahs were in it and were competing well. On to then, looking at possession and territory. So, big shift for the Lions in this one, because they had 62% possession to 38 and 70% territory to 30. So unlike in the previous games against the Reds and the Western Force, they had a lot more of the ball and a lot more of the territory as well. But again, they couldn't actually put things together to sort it out. But you can definitely see the impact that the bench had as well, because when we look at it from one half to the other, in the first half, possession was 52 to 48, so much closer than the overall. And then for the second half, 74% to 26. So the Lions, just as the game went on, as I said, becoming more dominant. The Waratahs maybe faded a little bit towards the end, but certainly in terms of spirit and defense, didn't fade too much. Territory then, first half was 65% to 35, so certainly more dominant on that compared to the possession in the first half, but in second half even more, 77 to 23. So a lot of the game being, especially second half, being played in the Waratahs half, but again they stood up well defensively. Clean breaks then, 9 for the Lions and 3 for the Waratahs. So the Tahs, they just three breaks from them, but still they managed to get themselves 2 tries, and get themselves in position to get 2 tries as well. Defenders beating then 15 for the Tahs, so that's 1 in 5 conversion rate in terms of defenders beating to breaks. And then the Lions with 38, so that's 1 in 4 for them. And it's less a lower conversion rate than we've seen from them in previous games on this tour. Offloads then, just one from the Tahs and 7 for the Lions. And again with the Lions, it was kind of, we talk about offloads sometimes on this channel about the fact that, it'd be great to have a stat for kind of positive and negative offloads, because for the Tahs, for the Lions, certainly there were some positive offloads, but there were, I think, too many negative ones where it was a case of offloading the ball to somebody who's standing still, and then you're losing momentum where, and part of it was obviously they were afraid of the threat of the Tahs at the breakdown. A lot of players get in there competing and get over the ball, win penalties or turn the ball over. And, you can see why they were moving it, but, they weren't the kind of offloads that we see where somebody's kind of won the collision, offload to somebody else and then takes it on. There were maybe a couple of those, but too many of the kind of giving the ball to the static player and not really, gaining too much from it. Rucks then, the Tahs at 95% and the Lions then at 91%. Again, we expect for the ruck to, 95% really, or thereabouts is kind of your pass mark. 91 isn't brilliant. So ball security is definitely something that the Lions can have to work on. Mauls then, the Tahs went 2 from 3 and the Lions went 7 from 8. Turnovers conceded then 16 from the Tahs and 20 for the Lions. So too many turnovers there for me. And again, it's about accuracy and ball security were the 2 big places for me where they failed in this one. Then kick pass run. So in terms of meters run, the Tahs with 230, the Lions with 482. Kicks from hand then, 19 from the Tahs and 25 for the Lions. And the kicking game was kind of interesting because I felt the Tahs certainly had the better of the kicking game in the first half. And, they were putting up contestable kicks and either winning them back or just make it really awkward for the Lions or getting to the ball when it went loose first as well. And then the Lions in the second half, they started to kind of turn the Tahs defense a little bit, finding space with the middle as well and forcing them, to try and run it back out and then winning the kicking duel because the Tahs would end up kicking it out kind of just outside of 22. Passes then, 89 for the Tahs, 215 for the Lions. So again, the team that's kicking more are the ones making more meters and actually putting more passes in. Runs 72 to 124. So, just over 3 meters per carry for the Waratahs. And then the Lions pretty much almost bang on 4 meters per carry for them. I think just under. Okay, so let's have a look then at set piece next. Starting with the scrums. So Tahs 5 from 9 on their own ball, and the Lions 10 from 12, and the Lions pretty much dominant, like lots of penalties for them on that. The line out then went really well too. Tahs just 9 from 14, Lions getting up, disrupting well, and then went 17 from 17 from their own ball as well. So certainly set piece, something that's going well, but thing we know about set piece is it can be going well this week and suddenly it's an issue again, the next game. So they'll have to certainly keep an eye on that. No cards in the game. The closest we came was the Lions at that stage when, Errol being offside and they get a warning. And then in terms of penalties conceded, 11 for the Tahs, 13 for the Lions. Definitely discipline, has been worse in this game for them than in the others. But, there certainly were, not brilliant penalties given away, but some of them as well was basically that whole ball security thing. The Tahs getting in there in the breakdown, competing, getting over the ball. And it was interesting as well in this one where we saw in the first game against the Western Force where the way the breakdown was being refereed, it was it was almost a negative for you to actually try and compete at the breakdown because people were getting pinged more often for no clear release and that kind of stuff. Whereas in this game, I felt like it was certainly more the other way, where you had players who from both teams who for me were off their feet pulling at the ball, but they got rewarded as well for it. So, but that's no criticism to the players on either team. It's about the whatever way the breakdown is being refereed. It's up to you to adapt to it and make the most of it. And I felt like that the Tahs certainly were the smarter of the two teams in that regard. They did really, really well with that. But yeah, the Lions definitely going to have to kind of tighten their discipline up for the next game. Okay, so let's have a look at some player stats. So first of all, on attacking, so meters made. So let's pick out some of the higher numbers here. So in midfield, Hugh Jones, 42 meters. Then you got Alex Mitchell with 44. Hugo Keenan, fullback, 32. The wingers, not a huge amount from them. Like Hanson with 29. And then like Kinghorn with just 13. But I think out of the two wingers, I felt like Kinghorn actually had a better game overall. And then into the forwards, big standout here. Ben Earl, 114 meters carried. That is a big number. And then the next forward after him was Josh van der Fleer with 21. And then coming off the bench, you had Duhan van der Merwe with 57 meters made from him. So big impact from the bench from him, certainly. So, and then just in terms of let's have a look at defending then. So, there wasn't as much defending, honestly, especially in the second half from the Lions, but it's still a big part of the game. So, tackles made, you had Van der Fleer with 17, way out ahead of anyone else. Like the next two people to him were Schoeman and Cowan-Dickey with 10 each, and nobody else got into double figures. You had Ben Earl with 8 and Ty Byrne with 9, but not sure if stats. Well, maybe some of the replacements didn't make any tackles, but it's shown that they didn't. I'm not sure about that, honestly. So maybe these stats aren't completely up to date. But then looking at discipline as well. So we had penalties conceded. Matt Hansen with 2. Then Ben Earl with 3. Ellis Genge with 3. Then Furlong with 1, and Ty Byrne, Cummings, and Cowan-Dickey with 1 each as well. So you can see kind of where the penalties are coming from there in terms of the players that certainly need to to clean things up. But let's have a talk about, run down through the 23 and just briefly talk about each of the players in terms of how they went. Starting with Hugo Keane, at full back, looked very rusty. And I know he was sick during the week, and he's been out for a while as well before that with injury. But for me, right now, Blair Kinghorn is the test 15, and Keenan's going to have to, he's going to have to go some to dislodge him from that, and certainly this performance isn't going to do that. Mac Hansen, then, we saw him last time he was playing, like, put in a brilliant performance and some really good work. Today, not so good. Giving away penalties, again, kind of kicking the ball away when he didn't need to. Handling errors defensively, at times, not it's not all the time, and that's the thing, right? With these kind of marginal calls, is it doesn't take too much to put yourself behind somebody else, and I think he's kind of dropped down the pecking order, base, at least on this performance. Then Hugh Jones got himself 2 tries and just showed that understanding he has with Tuipulotu, and the lines he ran for his scores as well, very good. Tuipulotu then as well, showing that combination. For me right now, this is the test centre combination. It's hard to see. Certainly Aki and Ringrose, I'm Irish. I obviously rate them as players. I think they're really good and really good in combination. But right now, I think that Tuipulotu and Jones have that little bit extra. And, with Finn Russell there as well, his understanding with them, I think, that's your test centre pairing. Then Blair Kinghorn playing on the wing today, but, it was decent from him. At times, again, not too many players on the field really were absolutely amazing, but I think for him, just being decent was enough, given how Keenan went as well. So probably the test fullback. Finn Smith felt like he was kind of forcing things a little bit in terms of trying to spin the ball wide a lot, and maybe game control wasn't really there either in the first half, and it kind of hurt the lines a lot. So certainly stuff for him to learn, and this performance again doesn't really put pressure on Russell for that 10. Alex Mitchell, I thought, was excellent. Got some really good decisions in terms of just when to go, spotting those gaps and immediately going. And, again, though, with Smith, I thought the control of the game in the first half could have been better. When to kick, when to kind of to go wide, when to go up the middle. When they started going up the middle a bit more in the second half, it certainly helped them a lot more in terms of just holding onto the ball and sucking in the Tahs defense and creating opportunities, even if they didn't take those opportunities. So overall, deserved, I think, player of the match performance from him. But you got to think that Gibson Park is probably still the number one. But all Mitchell could do really is put that pressure on and be ready that if the call comes, that he's going to step in, and he looks decent enough to be able to do that. Pierre Schumann, not so much in the loose from him today. Obviously went well in the scrum, but not as dynamic as we're used to seeing him. Luke Cowan-Dickey, he gave away a few penalties, but scrum went well, line out went well, so he did his basics. Same for Finlay Bealham, really. Around the park, not huge impact, honestly, but a lot of forwards didn't in terms of carrying and stuff like that. But still, all the basics went well. And, you think of it, with Furlong, still not looking, fit. And then Stewart not having his best game, for me at least, the last time he played as well. So Bealham, certainly is in that mix. To be certainly in the 23 and maybe the starting tight head at this stage, but I think it's very close to call between them. Scott Cummings then, good and bad from him. I think he was his awareness, and the pressure he put on, in terms of just getting off the line quickly, and he won that. He won that free kick for the Lions. When the just quick thinking, he just saw the player moving forward. He knew he's supposed to kick it, came charging in, and the pass went, and then so well done to him on those kind of things. But it's kind of interesting because I think Itoji's partner hasn't really been nailed down in terms of who's going to be next to him. So he's certainly putting his hand up, but it wasn't like a completely flawless performance from him either. James Ryan then, I think, just quietly effective, and I'm like, maybe from us as fans, like, he's not standing out at all in the game, but for the coaches, it might be a case that the fact that he's not standing out, maybe that's, for them, it's a good thing, because he's a bit of a workhorse and he just does that unseen work, that dirty work, and lets someone like Itoji, do the kind of the miracle plays and whatever, right? And has that visible impact. And maybe as a balance, maybe that's what they want in the second row. So have to see there. Tadhg Beirne, certainly not his best game, and not brilliant as a captain either, I felt in this, because as captain, I feel like on the field, you're the on the field leader. You're not having success by keep going wide. So, as a captain, do you not have a word to say, well, let's just try trucking up the middle a little bit more? And also in terms of, things like just overall kind of decision making wasn't brilliant from him either. That, the kind of the overall like breakdown and stuff, that he's obviously a breakdown specialist, and the fact that you can see that the Tahs are getting over the ball so often, maybe like just secure the ball a little bit more, like commit more players in there, or just change the way people are setting up, going into contact, that kind of thing. Just little tweaks on the field that could have helped, rather than leaving everything to the coaches. So yeah, maybe, and then like few handling errors from him, and we didn't see kind of like the big impacts normally you see from Beirne would be like maul disruption. The Tahs didn't have too many mauls in the game anyway, but we didn't see him impacting that. Then at line out, strong carries as well, but when he's not having those, the impact in the maul on defense, and also like getting over the ball to win turnovers and win penalties, we didn't see that from today. So certainly not his best performance from him. Josh van der Fleer, another kind of quietly effective guy, almost got in for a try, but for me, I think Jack Morgan is your starting 7 right now. And, I think Van der Fleer is the kind of guy that you can stick on the bench. Maybe if you're going for a 6-2 split, possibly, and have him as, either him or Earl, or even both of them there, to possibly just, have to stick them in him on the wing, or Earl in the centres if you do get kind of a disaster in terms of who gets injured when you've only got 2 backs on the bench. So there is a way, I think, into the 23 for him, certainly just because of his adaptability. Then Dan Sheehan, look, decent when he come on, and there's not really anything so far on the tour saying that he's not going to be the starting hooker. Then Ellis Genge, almost got to try some good carries from him, but also, giving away penalties, not brilliant for him. But yeah, let's just come back Ben Earl as well on that. Like, he gave away 3 penalties, but I think the point of difference from him was just the amount that he carried. We talked about it, like, over 100 meters carried from him is really good. So when you're not maybe getting too much gain line and winning the collisions with a player like him who can, carry well into contact, but also, carry well and find those gaps into open space, I think is decent there. But the mix of the back row, I think, is going to be the big thing, because again, I think Morgan, of all the options, I say Morgan is the closest to having secured a test spot. And then you have to look at then, okay, so you're going to go with Conan or Earl at 8 with him, and then let's say you went with Conan, are you going to go with Earl at 6? Is that a balanced back row? So a lot of kind of questions around stuff like that. But I think Earl probably going to be somewhere around the, close enough at least to 23. But then you got like Pollock, who, had to pull out of this injured, who potentially, if you're looking for a back row who has some wheels and can do things in open country, then Pollock is an option for that as well, as opposed to Earl, and he has a breakdown threat too. So those are the kind of things you've definitely got to look at there. Back onto the front row replacements. Tyke Furlong again, did very well in the scrums, I felt, but still, he doesn't look like he's really up to full fitness yet. So whether he can find that in the next couple of weeks to be a starting, tight head in a test, I'm not too sure about. Honestly, he might be, he might be on the bench like number 18 on his back, for the first test. Then Joe McCarthy, I think if he wasn't like such a similar player to Itoje, that would probably be my locking combination for the test. But I don't know whether you can really play those two in, as your starting combination there. So we'll see there. But certainly he's done well so far on the tour. Then Duhan van der Merwe come on, and wingers weren't making ground, and he made ground. So fair play to him there. But it's more with him. It's the linking up with the rest of the team. It's always kind of been, I think, a bit of a negative for him. He's a finisher rather than like a creator for me. And he's the guy you want to get him into the space and let him go, and then try and get there and support, because and support when I mean like for a recycle, because very rarely is he going to offload to someone to go over and score, etc. Jack Morgan, we talked about already. For me, did decent in this game, but probably going to be the starting 7. Ben White, an interesting one coming into the squad. Kind of helped steady the ship a little bit. I think, not that, again, Mitchell was player of the match, and deservedly so, but just in terms of, I thought his game management was better. And that certainly helped the lines towards the end, although they didn't take the opportunities that they made. Marcus Smith then, went some nice long passes out to width and stuff like that, which is decent, catches the eye, but, things like completely missing touch from that penalty, definitely going to be a negative against him. And, you look at the pecking order for the 10s. Well, the 10s have started, because now you got Owen Farrell in there as well. But of the 10s that started, for me, he's in 3rd place. You got clearly, I think, Finn Russell is your starting 10, and then Finn Smith is your backup if you're going to have a backup on the bench. And if you're not going to have a backup on the bench, then Blair Kinghorn is going to be your backup 10, playing for 15 from the start. I imagine they will probably have a backup 10 on the bench, though, and it will be Finn Smith. And then Marcus Smith, I think at this stage, it's, I'm not going to say completely out of the picture, but certainly, hasn't done anything in this game to enhance, his reputation in terms of jumping that queue. into maybe second place to get into the 23. Okay, so that is kind of look at the game. Again, it's a win for the Lions, but it's one of these ones where coming into the first test, you really feel like you need to have momentum coming in, and that's kind of stalled a little bit with this performance. And when you look at, games are only going to get tougher from now. You're going to have the Brumbies, who were the top Australian team, in the Super Rugby Pacifica this year. So obviously going to be a sterner test. And then you followed it up then next weekend with that invitational Australia-New Zealand team as well. So, and that's certainly a game I could see the Lions potentially losing that one. Just because of the talent that's probably going to be in that team that they're facing. So that'll be an interesting one and a big test for them. And then, after that, you're into the tests. And yeah, so when you think about it in that, those kind of terms, yeah, for some players, maybe like the boat was already sailed. But let me know what you think down in the comments.